Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Hello one, hello all, welcome to this February 21st through 23rd edition of Show Business. I come to you as always as CP.
And you got Jaime and Fuego from Infuegotainment and The Horror Show.
Ooh, and I am Lindsey of My Two Cents of Nonsense, and The Horror Show scared me. No!
Well, go ahead, Chauncey. You're officially legit. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chauncey K. Robinson, Twisted Girl Next Door, film critic.
and officially a member.
I'll get better.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. We haven't worked out the kinks yet.
I promise she's cool, guys. Don't worry.
So, to the weekend that was, Sonic came in first, maintained first place with $26.2 million. The big surprise of the weekend, though, has to be Call of the Wild coming in second with $24.8 million. Birds of Prey coming in third with 6.8. Bad Boys for Life coming in fourth with 5.8. And The Boy 2 coming in fifth with a 5.8. So you guys have seen you other guys have seen The Boy 2. So I guess we'll lead with the horror fanatic there. Fuego, go ahead and lead us in for The Boy 2.
Oh man, Brahms, The Boy 2. It's so funny because, they brought back the same writer-director, if I'm not mistaken, and this was a film that on a $10 million budget made like $75 million, if I'm not mistaken.
The original.
So it was the OG. So it was a surprising success for STX at the time, and we were discussing off air before we actually started, like, how this even saw success, and I was surmising, well, it's because Lauren Cohen was still on The Walking Dead at the time as Maggie, so a little bit of star power there from horror fans, and also PG-13 horror. I mean, it does have that, low budget, high profitability in certain circumstances, but I mean, Killer Dolls were still maybe going a little bit stronger and hadn't been quite as played out, because I think we only had maybe the first Annabelle by that time, and we had just had, it was either Cursed, I don't think Cult of Chucky was out just yet, so I mean the evil doll was having kind of a resurgence, and everybody thought the first Boy was going to actually be about an evil doll, and it's been out for a few years now, everybody. It wasn't about an evil doll. It was about a guy hiding in the walls who was moving the doll around. And so some people actually enjoyed that twist. I personally did not. Neither did Marsha Parker on the Horror Show, our resident evil doll fanatic. She's even done a sketch on the show where she burns an evil doll, one of our older comedy sketches. And so, yeah, it's funny how there was this backlash to that twist and people feeling kind of just cheated of what they anticipated. And lo and behold, Brahms, The Boy 2 basically retcons and, course corrects. And
you gotta stop saying course corrects. It's one film. How do you course correct on one film?
Well, you're giving people what they want. Well, retcon, negate, basically.
No, I'm just joshing you, Fuego. Go ahead.
But I mean, they basically tried to do an audience pleaser in this regard, and it's still like vague throughout most of the movie if in fact that is the case or not, and you really have to see just to try to determine, how deep that actuality really goes, because I'm not here to spoil the entirety of it, but it is definitely not somebody in the walls this time. So let's just put that on the table.
Spoiler.
But it's one of the dullest horror films I have ever seen. Although surprisingly, acting is good, especially from the kid, Katie Holmes, the couple of the Brits that we have in this film, because it does take place, once again, overseas and stuff. But I was so thoroughly just bored with this film. And I mean, you can either hate a film or you can love a film, but if you're just really kind of like meh about it, that's probably the worst sort of reaction, because that is no reaction. And if it's just completely forgettable, I mean, a really crappy film, you'll remember how crappy it was, that's for sure. This wasn't absolutely terrible. It just felt uninspired and just really a cash grab in a lot of ways for a film that wasn't like a marquee horror release of this last decade. So that's about where I'm at, Lindsay. What about you, man?
Let me intervene for a second. It's funny, this year is shaping up to be what box office calendar years used to look like 10 years ago. This is what box office calendars used to look like. Shitty horror for like 3 months, and then the movie started in like March. Because I'm thinking about it, there's like 5 horror movies that have come out in 2020 that are awful.
Yeah, The Turning, this one, Famous
Led
Island.
off with The Grudge, which was So go ahead, Lindsay.
Yeah.
You're gonna lead us into last week's too, aren't you?
Well, I do contend that Gretel and Hansel was quite
That's
good.
one.
We're 1 for 5. Yeah, we're 1 for 5 so far. But
I like that one too. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Cecil did not.
that's cool. I love Cecil, but I love how we're always also completely different on things like that. But yeah, Brahms, man, that started a weird trend, because I also saw Fantasy Island this weekend. And both movies have a lot of jump scares in it, and not one made me even blink. I don't know if the movies are getting lazier or if I'm just like so trained to know when they're about to happen. I don't know what that means, but
well, when was the last time you were scared in a movie?
Well, The Turning had one very effective jump scare, actually. I would say that Hansel and Gretel creeped me out and spooked me and got into the scarier stuff more, but it wasn't really as jumpy so much. But The Turning did have 1 or 2 actually fairly effective jump scares, so I think it's just more of these movies.
The last time I felt like really scared in a movie was Annihilation with the bear. That's the last time I was like, oh,
That bear.
that creeped me out.
Yeah. God.
The human.
Yeah. No.
That creeped me out so much.
Sorry, Lindsay, take it away.
No, that's a good segue, because like, yeah, you know that you hear that sound, you're like, what's about to walk around the corner here? And then it's a goddamn bear. It's like, whoa, this movie's crazy. Also in that movie, when they're like showing the video of the guy with the worms or whatever inside of him, that was
right at the Last of Us.
Oh, and also you see the aftermath of it, where he's like this, and beautiful piece of like dead art that's like smashed up on the wall, and all this stuff growing out of his torso. That's a terrific film. I can't wait to see Devs, which is Alex Garland's new TV series that he's doing for FX. That's about to premiere next month. But in any event,
I am excited for that as well. And it's like, I'm down to talk about Annihilation all night, because why does the Boy 2 exist? Like, of all the horror movies to make more money than you expected them, but like, I said off air, where's Dark Skies 2? That made 8 times its budget back. Where's Lights Out 2? That made like 20 times its budget back. Why did those get sequels? Yeah, The Boy, and I felt defeated by the movie in a way. Because like in the beginning, it actually did something kind of cool. I was like, okay, yeah, let's see where this is going, because they're like doing a theme of people breaking into your house and then like not feeling safe in your own environment, and like the horror that comes with that, because the movie literally opens with someone breaking into their house and this family nearly getting killed because of it. And I'm like, okay, where are you going with this? Nowhere. it just nowhere. It was just dropped as quickly as I can't even come up with a good metaphor right now. That's how bad this movie is. Yeah, Katie Holmes is fine. She's always been good. She's fine. I guess she's been kind of.
She's like vanilla ice cream, just like, yeah, all right, I'll have some, but
That's true. Yeah.
Is there anything else?
I guess passable, maybe.
She was good in Dark Knight. Was it Dark Knight?
Good.
The first.
Oh yeah, Batman
first
Begins.
one,
Yeah, all right.
Batman Begins.
I also liked her in Disturbing Behavior. I thought she was good.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a throwback.
You're going back 22 years.
Disturbing Behavior wasn't great, but she was good in it.
You know what I thought she was actually really good and I forgot about? Thank You for Smoking. Where's that? She's that kind of like that newspaper person will just go at any length. She was good at that. Okay, so yeah, Katie Holmes, she's good. She's good. But this movie though, man. Just why does it exist? You can always just not make a movie, guys. you did this to yourself. It's your fault right now. You have a movie out there that cost $10 million to make and it only made $8 million at the box office, and it's not going to make much more than that. Like, do you think this movie is going to hit $20 million at this point?
No.
Right?
It'll break even. No, that's the stupid
It is
part.
dead in the water. Yeah, especially with Invisible Man next week. This is donezo.
Yeah.
How much did the first one make again?
Let me get the exact numbers here.
I think it was like 75 million
That's
worldwide.
insanity.
On
Maybe it was like one of those gimmicks people thought it was gonna be like Annabelle and stuff.
It's weird because this Boy 2, Brahms the Boy 2, got pushed back twice. So they had it. I think they had it in May, and then they pushed it back to August, and then pushed it back to February. So they weren't confident in it. So I don't know.
It does explain why I feel like I saw trailers for it for a long time before it came out.
Yeah, that and I mean, The Hunt is coming out in March, which is getting marketed for twice now. So it's kind of strange what the horror genre really.
One quick thing, Fuego, you brought up the director. His name is William Brent Bell. He did do the first one, and he also did not a good horror movie, but a guilty pleasure of mine, Stay Alive.
Oh, I like that movie, 2006.
Yeah, something like that. You got Frankie Muniz in there.
Yeah.
And, I don't think anyone else, but it was kind of a fun, dorky little movie. He's got a weird career. Good for him.
It's a cheaper version of Brain Scan. I don't know if you've seen Brain Scan.
Brain Scan. That's the one
Edward
with
Furlong.
Yeah.
Plays a video game.
Playing the computer game and everything, and then he's like behind the eyes of the killer in the computer game.
Really prehistoric with the VR stuff. It's dated, but I would say a little bit better.
Who's the guy playing like the genie that comes with the game or whatever?
Oh,
that
Trickster?
guy's amazing in that movie.
What's his name?
Yeah, the Trickster.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That actor is so good in that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway. That is a good movie, Brain Scan. Audience, anyway, if you've never seen Brain Scan.
Yeah, pick it up.
For a 90s throwback, it's worth checking out.
I saw it about a year ago for the first time, and I was charmed by its ridiculousness, and it's very caught in its time period, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The grunge fashion, the post hair metal that's kind of transitioning into something a little darker. I don't know, it's cool though, and it was gorier than I thought it would be. So,
oh yeah.
And it has that 90s thing of if you stalk a girl enough, eventually she'll fall for you kind of thing going on.
That trope, yeah.
I'm glad it's over, but as a throwback, it works. Like anyway.
Does it?
Well,
Not to spoil anything, but I don't. Yes and no. Not to spoil anything, but.
Oh, that's right. She's a creep at the end too.
Yeah.
Oh, they're both creeps. Never mind. I take it back. They're both creepy for each other. Okay,
Yes.
It works. Okay, never mind.
And so that's why it's a shared.
They were both secretly stalking each other. Oh, the 90s.
So cute.
They actually do that in the the new one though.
Oh, and which one?
You.
YOU?
On Netflix.
No, that's the limited series, the ongoing series.
It started as a Lifetime series, but then it picked up on Netflix, where the guy's like a killer or whatever. There's some similar trope going on in there. Not to spoil it for people who haven't finished second season, but
yeah, it's the girl who was the youngest sibling in Haunting of Hill House, right? The one who commits suicide early on. I want to say.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say that because that's a spoiler.
The suicide in Hill House.
Hey man, I just spoiled Brain Scan. Spoil whatever you gotta spoil, Chauncey. You're good.
No, I was the spoiler just now. But
I didn't want to confirm. I wanted to.
I don't know. Could be.
That girl.
Okay, fair enough.
So, Lindsey, you caught up on last week's. That fell off a cliff. I didn't even have it here. What place did Fantasy Island come in?
98.
Yeah, I don't even have it.
Horrible like that.
No, it's
ninth.
Top 10,
Ninth. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there it is.
Barely registered.
It still made a few million, So they'll make their money back. They made it for like $4 or $5 million, So including international gross and stuff, they'll make their money back. It's Blumhouse. They make this for pennies on the dollar,
Yikes.
which is hence the quality a lot of the time. So.
Yeah, I do love Blumhouse sometimes, but oh boy, do they! And this is not. They make some stinkers, and this is definitely more Truth or Dare than it is Insidious or Sinister. And the weirdest thing about this movie is like, so I was only vaguely aware of Fantasy Island going into this. I thought it was like a reality show, so I guess I don't really know anything about it. It sounds interesting. I kind of want to. I've Googled it since. I do want to kind of check it out just out of sheer curiosity. And there's a lot of moments in the movie I'm like, that's a throwback to the show. And every time I called it, like, yep.
Yeah, it's all about Master the plane.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's a character who does the plane, and there's a character. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, not with the accent. It's a lady doing it this time, and so it's a little bit different.
Oh.
Yeah, I know they're breaking boundaries here, guys.
Well, the first one's being derogatory of a certain society, obviously.
Multiple times.
That shit would not fly now, man. No way.
And Ricardo Montalban, God, that guy, like, he sounds like he owned the hell out of that show. I want to watch it more than anything just for him because I love me some Ricardo.
He was even loved than his like the master owner of the island, I think, and then it was just a rotating, cast of guest stars coming in and their fantasies coming to be reality, and there always being kind of a catch to it and stuff. And I saw a few episodes. My dad used to watch it, and it was in syndication when I was growing up, but never something that like wowed me. It was very of its era for sure.
It sounds like Quantum Leap, but with like a island like veneer. Maybe I don't know. That's neither here nor there. But so Fantasy Island, the movie, about a bunch of people. They go to this island and they say like, "We'll make your fantasy come true." I guess, which is like the show. Mm-hmm. And everyone's just there and they don't really think it's true. And they're like, "Oh my God, it is true!" Ah! But then there's like a big twist where, I guess, spoilers. They're all there to get punished because they all had the hand in some random dude's death. And
that's the plot to something else. What is that the plot to?
100 other movies.
Yeah.
Right? So they're all guilty of one particular guy's thing or multiple things?
They're all in their own way had a hand in this one dude dying who's not very well established. It comes kind of out of left field. It feels like a twist made entirely in reshoots. Like they suddenly was like, oh, we need to connect all these fantasies together somehow because they're all the connecting things are there, especially with the guy who died, are very on their own. They're very separate from anything else. They could have just gone to the set and shot for 5 minutes and then just edited into the movie.
That's what it's almost like anthology vignettes that are all just completely separate in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it was interesting when they did kind of like when people started showing up in other people's fantasies. I was like, oh, so we're actually literally are playing with time and space. That's kind of cool. But then the twist of who the bad guy is completely ruins like a first chunk of the movie because now that character like no one would be around a character and she'd be like, oh my God, the island is doing stuff. I don't understand. But then later they were behind it all.
Wait, so their fantasies are on like different timelines and stuff?
It gets a little weird and out there, and it is kind of almost interesting. But then
dude, what is this like really weird ripping off Lost thing that's happening? That Netflix series called The Island.
I was just gonna bring it up, The Island. But honestly, The Island. This made The Island sound.
Yeah.
That twist was a little bit more thought out than whatever that is going on in fantasy. I actually sat through that whole series.
The whole thing.
And yeah, it wasn't completely horrible.
I was kind of interested in checking it out. With a not completely horrible recommendation, maybe I'll go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've seen it before. That's the only problem of it. You've seen it before, and the acting isn't as great.
I do like the guys brought up the Lost though, because there were a few times where it was like I could hear like the Lost transition like rumble, like going on in my head as they switched between scenes. It was very, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about this movie. It's very weird and odd and not good.
So good.
It's not a good year for horror.
So it's
far,
for nobody.
Right?
They stole a title for no reason. For no reason whatsoever.
I spent a lot of the movie wondering if this is like how like there was Blumhouse Truth or Dare and Lee Daniels the Butler. Is this Blumhouse's Fantasy Island because this has nothing to do with the show? But no, apparently this is like a somewhat actual.
I've seen a horror movie that I think either came out last week or the week before. It's out on VOD. It didn't get a theatrical run, but Bliss, which
it's on Shudder. Yeah, that's the vampire movie, right? I've heard good things actually.
You go watch that with that expectation because
Oh, no.
no,
good.
no. There's a lot of f-bombs and nudity. I'll give it that. Kick the kids out of the room. That's the easiest thing I can say. But it's like a really watered down Lost Boys meets no, I'm not done. Meets
It gets worse than Lost Boys.
yeah, it's I'll have to think about what else it is. There's a mixture of it. But it's not good. It went straight to VOD for a reason, if you ask me. But cinematography is nice.
To get a Halloween movie this year.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not like, 2020
I don't know
was
why.
nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Because it made a metric ton of money the first time. Stupid people going to pay twice for the damn Halloween 2018.
But you brought up Lost Boys. They're having a series that's supposed to come on CW for that.
Oh, why
Yeah,
CW?
they've been working on it for a while now.
Make it R-rated. Speaking of series, Chauncey, you've taken in a fair portion of Hunters.
Yeah, The Hunters on Amazon Prime with Al Pacino. Yeah. No, it's good. It's, if you like the idea of, I don't want to say if you like the idea of killing Nazis, but if you like the idea of, Nazis dying on screen.
That's way better. Put it that way. It's way better.
If you like Inglourious Bastards plus like the comic book genre, because they refer to some of the characters as a Jew hero type thing. Like there's like a play on like really like Jewish pride and like the deal with there's a lot of Holocaust remembrance.
Oh, it sounds a lot like Inglourious Bastards. The bear Jew, the Jew hunter, and some of the stuff.
It's happening in 1970s. It's really good. Al Pacino is pretty much the lead with this series, and it's a slow burn because the first episode is about 90 minutes, so it feels like its own kind of movie to set you up for the rest of the season. And there's a lot of brutal kills that happen, and the dialogue's really good, but it's even every episode is a slow burn because they're kind of unfolding it as it goes along. But within that, you kind of, I don't want to say it's a Nazi of the week sort of thing, but they kind of do that. Like it kind of, each episode starts with, here's this Nazi, and it gives you like a flashback of this really horrible thing that this Nazi did, and now it's like, now we got to go kill this guy. And then the subplots are kind of the overarching plots that are happening, but then the main thing is Nazi of the week that has to die. And they're trying to get up with the fourth Reich is trying to come back or like get started. So it's fun. It's comic, but they have a lot of debates. If you like I really enjoyed the fact that there was a big debate about Batman versus Superman in the show and Batman and Robin, because the second character, Jonah, the young lead, he's a comic book store worker. So his main thing is talking about comic books, and he kind of it's kind of like this, and even the kind of the cutouts and stuff, it's very superhero like, and someone compared it to The Boys but like fighting Nazis with a lot of stuff. So which makes sense because and that's another Amazon Prime property. So I definitely would recommend it. I hear there's a really interesting twist that happens somewhere in there. I will not spoil it, but that you'll either love it or hate it. But yes, it's good quality, and it's just the idea of no sympathy for Nazis, if you like that sort of thing.
I do. I'm down.
Donuts, man. Nada. Zip zilch.
Chauncey?
I do like that you brought up the Boys comparison, because when you said like Nazi of the week, it reminded me of how someone sold me on The Boys. Of it's like how to kill this superhero this week. I'm like, oh, I'm down for that, but no, how to kill Nazis. That's even better.
Yeah, it was the comparison I was eventually gonna have to bring up, because I'm like, okay, did the success of that show pave the way for this, or was it already in development? And Amazon just being willing to just let it all hang out and go with something so violent violent with those sort of sensibilities. I mean, I was a big fan of Garth Ennis' The Boys as a comic book from like 10 years ago when I first read it and stuff, and I was shocked when I heard that they were actually making that. And I'm like, no, they're gonna defang and declaw it. They have to, and they really in a lot of ways did not. I was impressed with how just like even beyond R-rated they went with it, because that is one of the most messed up comics, from not just the violent but from like sexual stuff that goes on in it too. It's just very unabashed with its approach of so many different crazy things. And I mean, I'm much more intrigued from all the positive, like most people I've talked to about Hunters have been very positive about it, but they're like, it's not for everyone. It will definitely offend certain sectors of society, obviously, but I mean, if you're like a Jojo Rabbit person, perhaps, then well, maybe you could be okay with something like
then
this.
Don't watch it. I don't understand why there's so much kid gloves with stuff like this. Not everything's for everybody. It's the easiest way to put it. I don't know. We're getting so sensitive.
What, you mean it's not for me? How dare you?
Nobody could watch it.
I don't understand how I'm supposed to react to something that's not catered to my personal life. I can't. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I'm getting President Trump on the phone now. We need to talk about this.
So you bring it up. We talked. We talked about it when a YouTuber ignorantly shit on Parasite. But the head statesman of the United States of America decided to speak ill of the Academy Award-winning Parasite, while also...
He had to be the Robert Storms. He had to one-up that guy.
While also admitting that he had not seen it. So,
And I think he did it here in my home state, because he was just here in there like a few days ago. I think that's where he did this, which is... I actually did something about it, and I try to be a little more neutral on my social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's to my entertainment coverage and stuff. I try not to get political and anything of that nature. But I watched that, and I was genuinely pissed off.
It doesn't make us look good.
I put something out about it, and I got some ire from fans of my like Stephen King coverage and other things. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take this down and not open this can of worms any further, because it's not part of my brand, I guess you would say, is to delve into that sort of discussion.
Sure, but it's ignorant. It's forget who's saying it. It's somebody in on television. I'll say that somebody on television being ignorant who has a large audience.
Mm-hmm. He does have a large audience.
Yeah, so it's one of the largest platforms.
Yeah. So.
Oh my God, we're thinking about the president as a social media influencer right
He's
now.
a reality star first.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Is this bad, good? Like what? I mean, if a YouTuber is an asshole, an ignorant fool for doing it, what is the voice of the nation?
Yeah, well, how many different reviewers all throughout the YouTubes do we have who will condemn something before they've even seen it, and everyone's just like, wow, okay, well, that's a very narrow-minded viewpoint when you're just basing this off hearsay, for God's sake. So, I mean,
I've literally been working on a Birds of Prey video talking that exact subject, but I keep not liking the script because I keep coming off as... I don't know. But yeah, like I've watched so many different channels that put out like 6 different videos all saying how much they're going to dislike Birds of Prey when it comes out like 2 weeks before and then the movie comes out. They're like, oh my God, they didn't like it. Who saw that coming?
Captain Marvel.
Same thing with Joker. That happened with Joker too. We were talking about it. The outrage of this being, it would be some incel empowering movie, and it totally wasn't that at all.
Right.
But I mean, just with the whole thing with the president, that guy, he was doing it at his rally. I mean, it played into the same thing that guy with that viral video did. It was kind of like he was so mad because he was playing up this whole idea of that's a foreign film, and that's been unfortunately, that's been this and it's seeped into, well, culture is a reflection of our society, but it's seeped into this as well, this idea of America first, even at the Oscars. Like, and it's like, but what is that? Like, you know, this is film, this is art. You know, it shouldn't have to necessarily be that way. I mean, and like you said, no matter who's saying it, it's kind of an ignorant sort of viewpoint to have, because if it's best film, if we talk about, if some people who like to play into the whole idea of meritocracy, you know, that exists, you know, in this industry, then you have to say, well, that was the best film and it won based off of being the best film. You know, and if the other films were better than that film, they would have won.
Right. And
you know, that's just
it's the inverse of me saying, you know, movies like Black Christmas. What the hell is the abortion movie? Unplanned. Those movies are message first. Those movies are message first and then a movie.
You did a segue, don't we?
Yeah. Those movies are message on top and you know, the cake batter is the movie. The exact opposite is this message from somebody who shouldn't be talking about movies. Some movies shouldn't be talking about politics. Just tell a story. And the exact opposite here happens with somebody in politics. And you know, you don't know what you're talking about. Just shut up. Just talk politics. How about that?
It is funny how no one's saying that. No one's coming out and saying, "Oh, Mr. Politician, stay out of the films. You don't know what you're saying." But
yeah, it's always the reverse. Like, stay out of politics.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I think that's especially if you haven't seen it, just keep your mouth shut, man. Like.
And especially what was he had an example movie of can we make
Gone with the Wind
instead of
Oh, is that the example?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We need more movies like Gone with the Wind. And you're just...
I mean, I'm sure it's great. I've tried watching it a few times. It's very long and very slow and
very
South friendly.
All right, so hey, let's
or Confederacy friendly.
He just didn't want to say Birth of a Nation. That's what he wanted to say Birth of a Nation. So he's like, I go with the wind. No, you meant Birth of a Nation. We know what you meant.
Now,
Look
totally.
It up if you haven't heard about that one, y'all. That's very interesting. I had to watch that for class.
Oh, me too. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's as horrible as it is. It's kind of mildly interesting, not like what it's presenting, but like just the stories
it's
around
the footprint.
it and watching it.
It's the footprint for propaganda as we know it. It's essentially footprint. No, a blueprint. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Again, horrible movie. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying.
Minus the message, it's pretty well done. It's like this epic story.
Right.
If those characters weren't those characters, you could think it's some epic hero origin story. To be honest, it's just like what we were saying about the messaging being very much within there, very overt.
Yeah.
So I mean, once again, it's like even back then to now, like gotta. There's finesse. Like, there's movies that have certain political messages that people can interpret, or they don't interpret it at all, and they just love it as a good movie.
Yeah, Yeah, and it was an extremely well made documentary. There's reasons they study it. It's just for all the wrong reasons in the underlying. Hey, let's talk about other stuff. Fuego, you didn't talk about your other movie.
Well, there was one thing that just occurred to me, and it was as we were discussing Parasite and the foreign language aspects and stuff like that. I actually never saw the French film The Artist back in 2011.
Oh.
That won Best Picture. It was a French film that won Best Picture. A lot of people didn't think it necessarily deserved to win, so like similar aspects of controversy there perhaps. But since I never saw it, was that dubbed into English or was that a subtitled movie? Because that would put it in the same realm.
It was produced by America,
language
I think.
Film. Really? I mean, it's listed on Wikipedia as a French film, but I mean maybe it was an American production that was filmed in France. I mean, that's why made outside of our studio system, perhaps, It was something that just occurred to me because I was remembering the controversy about that comedy drama back in the day. And
did it win Best Picture?
Oh yeah, it won Best Picture. Yeah.
And yeah, actually, it was distributed by
Best-
Warner Brothers, but it was produced by La Petite Ron, which I definitely didn't pronounce right. La Classe Américaine, France 3 Cinema. Yeah, that's
Because I
interesting.
could have sworn people were bitching like 10 years ago about this movie that's subtitled is winning.
Oh.
And I mean, Life is Beautiful got a lot of crap when that came out.
Ben
you know,
Ben
I'm like,
is saying it's a silent film,
oh,
so no language.
I haven't seen it, so okay. Interesting.
To be fair, it has 3 lines at the end, I think, but still.
I would assume that designates it as such, but
Right.
yes, I mean, people have always been averse on our side of the pond to something that isn't as Americanized, and despite the fact that it's American, awards, taking place in Hollywood and all this different stuff. So I don't know, it was just something that randomly came to mind as we were having the discussion. But I guess full-on foreign language film, and obviously, I mean, it's something from Eastern Asia and South Korea specifically.
Oh,
and
dude, I've been
phrase of that.
I've been force feeding myself Korean cinema, and man,
Force feeding.
dude, they do thrillers better than anybody. I'm convinced.
Can't wait for that Train to Busan sequel, which it's called Peninsula, that's getting ready to come out. It just secured its U.S. distribution and stuff. I'm pumped for that, because that's one of the better zombie films I've probably ever seen, as far as just the heartfelt dynamic between the father and his daughter, and the setup and everything, and just doing something different with, at that point, what was becoming a very tired genre that had been done to death in all sort of silly ways. Yeah, well, that's where it was already like pretty much a walking corpse. So yeah, but
people in general tend to hate the best picture anyway, whether it's foreign or not. Like, so, there's always a majority that's like, that shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
Period. But yeah, this
Very
one's
true.
more tinged with the xenophobia. But yeah.
I think it should have been Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You're like, okay, it was fun, but the best picture of the year, you guys, like, that's why they did away with that new category they were trying to throw in there for best popular movie. You guys remember that? How ridiculous the idea of it was, just to give some, distinction and acclaim. I don't know. I hate that.
Weird how the Oscars, they gatekeep what is like considered an art.
That's
film
what
so
annoying. That's what's
much.
annoying.
Yeah.
Like the reason why we have the best animated category is because they had the audacity to make Beauty and the Beast nominated for Best Picture in 1994, and enough people got all up in a tizzy and clutching at pearls over that. And hey, animated films getting recognition is a good thing. So something good did come out of it, but you don't need to question whether or not a movie is art or not. And then, like, what do we have these days? Like, people saying, "Oh, Netflix movies are not movies. They cannot be up for awards. They're not in theaters." When Marriage Story and Irishman were both Netflix movies that
We're really great.
everyone, people loved. Like,
Well, and also, didn't Netflix purchase that theater in LA that they're gonna do like?
They did.
They did have limited
specific
releases. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were doing that to make the requirement, though. You have to be in theaters for like 2 weeks to qualify. I think that was the whole thing, and people were mad at that. I think it just goes to show, though, like right now, the Oscars, like we were talking about 2 weeks ago, like the Oscars had its lowest ratings at this point, and it has, and not just the Oscars, but other award shows, and it has people wondering, do we need award shows? Period.
Yeah, people are
at
tired.
This point. And, and like who, it's the question of like who gets to decide this at this point.
Yeah, it's art.
So,
It's really strange. It's not like sports where it's like, oh, here's the score, here's who won. Like, there's no numbers for this. Like it's really strange.
I get that it works for independent films. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no! I was just gonna say that lots of people, depending on their societal perspective, political perspective, whatever. I've heard from both sides, from various friends and family members and whatever. They're like, it's just very rich people patting themselves on the back, and it's off-putting to me. And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't really know how to respond to that, critical or otherwise, and so
they're not wrong.
Fuego, you didn't talk about your second movie you saw this week, did you?
Yeah, no, I have yet to get the chance.
Go ahead.
So last week we had a Neon. So Neon is the same company that distributed Parasite, at least over here in the States, and they're kind of positioning themselves as the new A24 in a lot of ways. They did a really really weird French film I watched last year called Climax from the same guy who did
Gaspar Noé?
Is it Enter the Void?
Enter the Void, Irreversible.
Yeah, a very avant-garde, just trippy director. I feel like I need like some sort of substance augmentation to actually properly appreciate a lot of what's going on. But I mean, just visually ambitious in every regard. And I mean, we're talking very experimental filmmaking in a lot of ways. And so Neon did that film as well called Climax last year. But yeah, this is a movie that premiered a year ago in January at Sundance called The Lodge, and it's the follow-up from the directing team from over in Europe. I forget the specific country that did a film called Goodnight Mommy that I found incredibly disturbing, and it's they've been trying to do an American remake for a while. I'm actually really happy that they haven't, because it would probably be along the lines of Let Me In, which was a remake of the Swedish vampire film Let the Right One In, and I found while Let Me In was good, you know, I think Matt Reeves did it if I remember correctly, it still paled so significantly in comparison with the original that I had seen beforehand. So yeah, they have yet to remake Goodnight Mommy, but The Lodge is this European directorial team's first American film, and it has she was in It Comes at Night. I'm trying to remember the name of the actress. I want to say it's like Riley Keough or something like that, but she plays this lead woman in it who is the new boyfriend of this older guy who you know, has his two kids in tow that are a little bit older. One's a teenager or like somewhere in that age range, and then a younger sister. And so it's around the holidays, and they decide that they are going to take this trip up to this lodge that they presumably own, that they used to spend previous holidays at. And he has to run back into town. I think they're in the Northwest, or maybe they're on the East Coast. I don't know, but it's cold winter conditions and stuff. They never really specify exactly where they are. And yeah, so this younger girlfriend is left with the two kids, and she has kind of it's shown in the trailer, so this isn't a spoilery sort of thing, but it's shown in the trailers that she has a bit of PTSD from growing up in a cult, a religious cult where, you know, some really bad stuff went down, and, you know, she was able to escape and survive, but weird things start happening without spoiling stuff in this. It is as slow burn gets. It had a lot of acclaim from people at Sundance and a few other festivals. I think it should have Cannes too, and a couple others, maybe TIFF and stuff. But I've seen people praise the hell out of it. I thought it was great, but I've seen other people say it is as boring gets. And so it's very much an acquired taste in a lot of ways. But I was thoroughly disturbed by this movie. I thought all of the performances, including Jaden Martell, he was Big Bill in the most recent It movie in 2017. He was also in a small part in Knives Out, so he's a talented little young actor. He's in this. He plays the older brother, and his younger sister is terrific in this too. She might even be better. But the girl who plays Grace, the girlfriend who is stuck with watching these kids as their guardian for a few days, it's snowed in with no means of escape, and, you know, there's electricity problems and, you know, phone line problems and all kinds of different stuff, and things just get weirder, and there's kind of playing with perception, and also lots of religious themes. I will never think of Nearer My God to Thee in the Same Right ever again after this movie. And I was raised Reformed Baptist, so I had all that indoctrinational stuff, nothing to the degree that this young girl endured. But a lot of people will probably think it's boring and hate it. I thought the way I described it in me and Cecil's review is it's not entertaining, but boy, is it engaging, enthralling, and effective, at least for me. Very effective with some of its condemnations and just a lot of the themes it explores that are you're not going to have a good time at this movie. Let's just put it that way. But I mean, it stuck with me, and I'm still thinking about it right now. So it had limited once again in New York and LA last week, and it's wide, but it's still in only a couple theaters in most major cities where it's available.
And that's The Lodge.
So that's The Lodge. Yeah. The Lodge. Damn, dude. It upset me.
And I know I recognize that actress that from It Comes at Night, the name that she was also in Fury Road as the redheaded wife, Capable, the one that falls in love with what's his name?
Tom Hardy?
Beast.
Yeah.
No, the other one.
Right.
The War Boy. I can't think of his name right now, but the guy who was an X-Men.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Jennifer Lawrence's ex-beau.
Oh,
Oh
really?
yeah, Nick
Stahl. No, not Nick Stahl.
not Nick Stahl. He was Beast in the X-Men movies. Damn it, I can it's eluding me at the
does
moment.
The chat will help
That's
us in
gonna
40
bug me,
seconds.
It doesn't
There
matter.
you go.
She was also in the It Follows director's follow-up film, which It Follows follow-up. That's funny to me.
Yeah.
But it was called Under the Silver Lake, I want to say, which had our second Spider-Man in it, Andrew Garfield, right? So that was like a thriller that came out last year that I heard was a little long and not so good. But yeah, she was in that as well, and she's terrific in this movie. She really steals it. She's great. And Alicia Silverstone is in it in a small role too, and it was nice to see her when I hadn't in a great long while. So yeah, she actually plays the mother of the two kids, and there's kind of a dissolving marriage. It's in the first couple minutes, and it just sets everything up. So
Yeah, we have a really bad delay. All right, so it couldn't get Nick's name yet, but
Jeez, I'm looking it up right
okay.
now.
Are we excited for The Invisible Man's kind of wide open this week? It's
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. And see, now Sculptor comes in. Too late. So Invisible Man kind of uncontested this weekend.
Yep.
What are we thinking? Chuck?
I'm pretty sure The Boy 2 is going to come in.
I actually think Fantasy Island is going to see a resurgence and finally find its audience and beat all the other horror movies and come in at fourth. So, no, I'm just kidding. No, I think it's going to win, actually. I think Elizabeth Moss has enough clout from Handmaid's Tale, which I've still never watched, but I know she has a big following from her role in that. She has a lot of buzz for this Shirley movie, at least as far as the indie audiences go, which is her portraying author Shirley Jackson, who wrote Haunting of Hill House and a few other things, but was a very troubled artist in the early 1900s and stuff. But yeah, I think Moss's star power, I think Leigh Whannell and his positive buzz after Upgrade and the surprise hit that was for a lot of people. I mean, I don't think it's going to make more than mid-20s, but I mean, you got to figure Sonic is going to dip a little bit more. You got to figure that Call of the Wild is going to have more people figure out, oh, that's not a real dog. That's what pissed my dad off about it because he went and saw it, and he was like, it wasn't even a real dog, and I was like, that's kind of what they do now, Dad. They can't be homeward bound, I mean, this is just the way. It's just the way it is now. So,
I miss Homeward Bound. Those were good movies.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox voicing a dog, right? Interesting, but yeah, I actually think it's going to win this weekend. It's not going to be like that far ahead of the pack, because I think Sonic is going to continue with its positive word of mouth and buzz. I mean, Call of the Wild was at the forefront as of Friday evening, and then it kind of fell back, about 1.5 million, and ended up losing. But yeah, I think those two will regress just a little bit, maybe be late teens, early 20s, and then yeah, I think Invisible Man is going to take it. I truly do, actually.
Chauncey.
So.
Yeah, I think it's gonna do really well. Actually, I think it might be one of those sleeper hits, like everyone's expecting it to do okay, and then it does really phenomenally. Because
I can see that.
There's been a lot of buzz, it's a lot of buzz around it right now, where people saying it's one of the best horror films they've seen in a very long time in terms of being really scary. Although I was watching someone, they said it looks like a bunch of people are gonna be beating themselves up the whole movie because people might get tired of that. But yeah, I mean, I saw it was somewhat of a more full trailer where it was just it looks very brutal in terms of the violence, but also the creep factor. And I think because right now with Sonic, that's the family friendly one, and I think you're gonna get a crowd of people who might not, might want something a little bit more, edgy, because these last couple weeks, although we've had Birds of Prey, it didn't do as well, but
still cold.
I think The Invisible Man might be more approachable for people, although I still expect we're going to get a lot of those essays about what the themes are within the Invisible Man because of the plot line. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be one of those ones where after this weekend, a lot of people are going to be talking about it. So I think it's going to take,
I don't disagree. Lindsey?
I think I've been a fan of Leigh Whannell for a bit. I really I like all the Insidious movies. I think 2 is probably the weakest, but I do like all of them. And I did really, really like Chapter 3, the one that was like the flashback, sort of, that he directed. And then he produced the 4th one. I don't think he directed that one. But then Upgrade was also really good. So I am excited. I think he's a very interesting, or at least he makes very interesting choices with the movies that he makes. I don't know what is his directing style necessarily, just based off these movies. I haven't seen enough yet, but he does interesting things with the movies that he makes. So
he's a good writer. I know that much.
Yes, he's also a very good writer. Like, he had a hand in all the Saw movies. He was also one of the prisoners in the first Saw movie, I think, too, right?
Yeah. The guy that wasn't Carrie Elways.
Yes, not Carrie Elways. Oh, and in Insidious, he's like the nerdy guy, Specs or whatever, the smaller one.
Oh, yeah.
So, he's a talented dude. I think he's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see it, especially because he keeps so adamantly claiming they haven't showed everything in the trailer when they do seem to show a lot. So I'm curious what's still being held back.
Yeah, I'm just really going to double down on you guys saying the whole counter-programming aspect. Maybe a lot of these parents are like, no, kids, I'm not taking you to see Sonic for a 3rd time. I'm going to go see The Invisible Man. We're getting a babysitter, and, just leave it at that. So.
No, The Invisible Man's the babysitter. They're going to go to the movie, too, and they're going to enjoy it, damn it.
Yeah, because you look at the top 2, it's Sonic and Call of the Wild. Those are very, very family-friendly. Mm-hmm. And there's just no market for teenagers, adults. It's kind of a void right now, so it really could make some noise.
That's what I'm saying, guys. The Boy 2, Brahms. All the teens are going to go see that.
Yeah, it would be crazy if it was what Chauncey said, like a sleeper that like does in the 30, maybe even pushes 40. I don't think it's completely unfeasible, honestly. So
not at all.
Yeah.
Do we have news?
Little bit.
Yeah,
they're trying to really push forward this Berlanti Little Shop of Horrors remake, and there was more casting announcements today, and lots of people don't realize.
Very angry.
Yeah, it was that was originally a Roger Corman film from like '60 that had Jack Nicholson in it, and a lot of people don't realize that. Yeah, but the '80s remake, I mean, obviously being done by Mr. Kermit the Frog himself and everything, and an iconic cast. But the announcements today actually intrigued me a little more so than I was anticipating. Most notably because the evil dentist that was played in the '80s remake by none other than Mr. Steve Martin, Magical Mr. Martin. They're saying Chris Evans for that role, and seeing him in a snarky asshole villainous kind of role again, especially after the Knives Out turn, I'm kind of into seeing that a little bit. I'm not sure about the other casting with Scarlett Johansson and.
Are you kidding?
Right?
Yes.
Doesn't it? It just ruins it.
Yeah, and then they're going for Taron Egerton. I want to say, dude from.
And Elton.
Who was in Rocket Man and obviously the Kingsman stuff and whatnot. I like him, but if they're bringing him on, presumably like they are going for singing chops and trying to make it a musical again. But this is definitely one of those where they're talking about a new Little Shop. They're talking about another version of Clue. And we see some of the same names floated around for.
If Scarlett Johansson's in it, I'm gonna do damage to people. She needs to give her agent a raise, because how the hell is she always attached to everything?
And yet I loved her in JoJo, and I mean she was Marriage Story. So I don't know, but she is. She is pretty much what Jennifer Lawrence was a few years ago. I feel. Even though she has been around a little bit longer in more of a prominent lead role, but. So I'm not super stoked on this, but I can tell you guys are totally up for it.
Before they announced him being the dentist, I knew that's because they weren't sure. They didn't say what he was in talks for. I'm like, they're going to make him the dentist. They're going to make me hate Chris. And then I thought, man, I just made an invert. Everyone hates Chris. But I was like, they're going to make me hate him because he's going to beat a woman. And he's going to slap yeah.
Look, guys, if you can't hate Americans' ass, who can you hate? All right, like.
And he did. What was that movie where he played the guy with the really strong eyebrows? That was.
Not another teen movie.
No, it was. He was playing a villain in that.
Scott Pilgrim.
Mm.
That was so he's done the jerk before and everything. He can play it well, even though everyone loves him because he's a lovable guy. So I think that's gonna be. I actually think he's gonna be really great in that, and I think Seymour. I think he's gonna be fine too. I'm just not convinced that ScarJo is an Audrey. Like I just don't see her playing Audrey. And I don't know. I just feel like that's just how I guess Hollywood is, where it's like they just start casting everyone in the same kind of part. They just kind of switch it around. That's the way it feels like with this. And because Chris and her have been in Marvel for like 10 years already. Yeah. Like I think that's gonna throw a lot of people off seeing them like play against each other, because they've seen her as Widow and him as that for so long. I don't know. It's a little weird.
Maybe they flip the script with Audrey then, and they don't make her as vulnerable and, I hate to use a term like abusable, but maybe they just make her more of a stand-up to, just those sort of advances and stuff, and try to change her character up a little bit. But yeah, if they're gonna go for the more traditional, it's the dynamic that made that original film work so well was that Seymour was such like a sweet guy that was appealing in that regard, to make her like turn things around in her life. And I'm actually thinking they are gonna turn a lot around and change a significant amount of things in this, but we'll see. So.
I don't need them to make it woke. I just want them to they should just eat with, Although I did have an issue. I did say in 2020, I did comment on Twitter. I was like, it just seems like they're sticking with the three, and the one human guy, the non-human guy is still the black guy, which is fine, but that always seems to be the case, that the non-human is, and then the three ones stay white. Yeah. In this particular case, I was like, is there no reason why they couldn't diversify that just a little bit, Or maybe I just don't like ScarJo. I don't know. I just like, maybe they could have just switched her.
Has there been a movie that Chris Evans has done where he hasn't been with an eventual other Marvel lead?
At this point,
I'm trying to think, because you brought up Scott Pilgrim. He's in it with Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm. That's right, bro. I always forget Brie Larson.
Snowpiercer, what's her face from Doctor Strange is in it.
Tilda Swinton.
Oh, yeah. Tilda, yeah.
It's a great movie, man.
I'm trying to
Who's in Knives Out with him?
Oh, who isn't?
Oh,
there might not be.
I don't think
there might not
Marvel.
be. You're right. Yeah. That might be it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So there goes that trivia question.
Although the director and writer is from Star Wars, I don't know if that counts. Disney somehow.
There's your 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon right there.
Yeah, I just think after being so squeaky clean for his duration as Captain Marvel, Jesus Christ, Captain America, huh? I think he wants to get back to being an asshole. He did it a lot in his earlier years. I mean, as his take on Johnny Storm, Not Another Teen Movie, and Scott Pilgrim and stuff. I think he's just like, I kind of want to be mean again. I'm sick of being squeaky clean, nice Mr. America man.
He already has fuck you money, so why not? I mean,
yeah. Right.
I mean, it's like Dr. Dolittle with
Robert Downey Jr.
Just do whatever you want. Yeah. They're like the Harry Potter kids.
Oh yeah.
You just be in anything. Horns.
I'm gonna play a zombie on a beach because.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait for Guns Akimbo though.
Yeah, it does look good. By the way, I found the Marvel connection in Knives Out.
Go ahead.
The girl who's like the knight who's like the most friendly with Ana de Armas and like feels really bad about selling her out at the end. She play in a deleted scene from Avengers Endgame. She plays the older version of Tony Stark's daughter.
Wow,
that was a reach. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is like 7 degrees of Marvel right here.
Keep the trivia question alive.
Sorry, I had to go for it. It's like, I know there's one. Who is it? Which one are you?
What else we got in the news front?
We got some Batman stuff. You guys saw those leaked photos, right, of that suit? Mm-hmm. A lot of people being critical about it.
Why?
They're saying it's too gauntlet on the hands, and they're criticizing the little ears and stuff. Now, granted, these are like paparazzi photos taken from like probably 50 yards away with these, crazy lenses to try to get their damnedest out of it. And it's not even Pattinson in the suit; it's his stunt double, who looks surprisingly a lot like Ben Affleck, which is a little weird. But
that did throw me off for a minute. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm like, did they get him in there for just a scene or two, and then they're gonna flash back like Matt Reeves hinted they were gonna do at one point? But
what if Ben Affleck is Robert Pattinson's stunt double? Anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people critical of the design, and I had some mixed feelings about it. It's definitely going more so for this whole armor. It doesn't feel as comic booky as I probably wanted it to, but I'm gonna reserve judgment until I see it, properly color corrected and with whatever bells and whistles
and behind the lens of the DP, and not some fucking
exactly
popo like.
Yeah, and it's often the way you shoot it.
Right.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And
also
so
post-production effects,
Sure.
lighting. There's all kinds of.
yeah, and
Like we saw that alone in Justice League, where the scene where they didn't properly light it or play with it in After Effects or whatever, so you could see that the muscles on the bat suit were just painted on. For the record, I don't blame Ben Affleck for being skipping a couple of sit-up days. I could never imagine keeping that workout routine he had to do for Batman v Superman.
Well, this whole thing judging what else did we see set photos of this week, and people went bonkers. Oh, Suicide Squad. People are like, eh.
Oh,
And it's like half of them aren't. They're in green screen outfits. So what do you judge? Yeah, like just let them shoot the film.
is that muslin green screen suit you're wearing? Because if it's not, the quality of the effects will be poor.
Yeah,
Is that supposed to be taking place, the Suicide Squad, after Birds of Prey? Timeline-wise, does anyone know?
I don't know.
I do not. I know
Because she looks very different in it. I'm just saying she has longer hair and
Is
everything, so I'm wondering what's the timeline.
Is it Margot Robbie still?
Yeah, it's her.
She is reportedly having like a significantly smaller role in this, and they're going to shift to other new characters that James Gunn is implementing, and so she's going to be more of like a supporting kind of supplemental presence in it.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
yeah.
You say that, but I bet after a couple of rounds of edits, her character is going to be surprisingly screen.
Listen.
After they cut the trailer and decide what classic rock song to accompany it with, and then they'll change it all up.
I have 2 words: Jennifer Lawrence, X-Men. That's it.
That's like 4 words.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. They don't want to have somebody that's too big for their little thing, because next thing you know, they're paying her $15 million, and she doesn't want to get in the outfit because it's hot.
Well, this is looking like a crazy casting. We got Idris Elba, you got freaking Nathan Fillion in there. I'm assuming Sean Gunn's going to be playing at least one character, if not 2.
No, but that's why Michael Rooker's in there too, because it's James
Michael
Gunn.
I completely forgot Michael Rooker. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He's in everything Gunn does. All those Gunn guys. There's like 3 of them, or 3 or 4 of them, including
big family.
Cousins and brothers and all those different. So
it's a big film family. I'm jealous. It looks like a fun bunch of dudes to hang out with.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Come on, my little brother, become next James Gunn already. What the hell, bro? I love my brother, just the record.
And
actually, I will say I did like that Harley was wearing like that big flowy dress thing. I don't know what that's gonna be, but like
the red dress she has on, right?
Yeah,
it looks interesting. I liked her look, whatever they were going for. That's why I was wondering when does it take place exactly? Because I know she cuts her hair in Birds of Prey, so I'm wondering if did she grow it back out, or if this is right before she completely separates from. Or maybe they'll just ignore it. DC
watch whatever we see get cut. I remember when they were doing the first Suicide Squad, and they made such a big deal. They made such a big deal of a Batman on Joker's Lamborghini, whatever, and it was like such a teeny thing in the movie. It was just like all that for that. Oh, okay, cool.
It was literally 6 seconds.
I think if that, yeah, just.
Yeah, no speaking role or anything, if I recall correctly. So,
cool.
And then somehow Batman punches someone underwater with enough force to knock them out. How strong is he?
Well, he punched a woman.
Human?
Well, and also Batman nowhere in Birds of Prey. So where was he in all of this? Who knows?
Training.
So.
Well, apparently there is some. I read about this. I don't remember the exact details. I should have committed it to memory or pulled it up. But like, apparently they are extremely limited in what they can do for on-screen Batman appearances. That's why there was never really any appearance of Batman in the original Birds of Prey or this or or Smallville and stuff.
And they
like that.
wasted it on the first Suicide Squad.
Oh, I mean, I'm not defending any decisions.
How much screen time does he have there?
Made with that movie. More than he should.
It's really weird, the DC, like the Bat family, when it comes to those characters, it's a whole thing about them being licensed. Like, because it's the same thing with, if people watch DC Universe with, not Doom Patrol, Titans, where they couldn't show, like, they could only show the back of Batman's head in the first one. They finally got him to come on, but he's not in suit. He's just like Bruce Wayne throughout all of it. And now they just finally got Oracle for like the third season because they couldn't get her but they couldn't get her Barbara Gordon because they couldn't get her as Batgirl because she's licensed in a different way. So they could get her as Oracle. And it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing for Batwoman too. Like they can't really show him or what. It's a weird thing with
Meanwhile, I just rewatched Ready Player One, and that thing is just full of licensed shit. It is just.
I would love to know what the budget for the license is.
Millions. Millions. There's things that like you pause and like, how much that frame cost, because I could see 7 people right there, and there's Battletoads that you might not see them if you don't look hard enough. There's just a ton of shit in that movie that's ridiculous. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, maybe since they were just in the background and shown for like a glimpse of a second, they were able to negotiate, since it was Spielberg, a much smaller rate for just using the likeness.
I mean, the score essentially is Back to the Future. There's that. So that's what, unless it was the same.
I do find licensing like an unnecessary migraine, but like an interesting one, because like right now Disney they could put Hulk in a movie, but they can't make a movie about Hulk.
Yeah, because he's universally owned still, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're not giving that up.
Yeah. At least. Yeah. Or I think it lapses at some point or something. I don't know, but like, at least for right now, which is like, how did you sign that contract? Who wrote it, and how much of a migraine was writing that contract? Like, anyway.
Yeah, that's still an after effect from like the pre MCU, when I think that goes all the way back to the Eric Bana one that Flying Daggers director did. So Ang Lee, yeah,
Tiki Woodstock, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Brokeback Mountain, yeah. Sexy.
What else we got on news? Anything?
Not a ton. I was going to ask if you guys watched the trailer for this new Sarah Paulson film called Run. That is a thriller that's coming out here shortly. It's a damn good trailer, and it's from the director and writing team behind Searching, which was a John Cho movie that I adored from a visual standpoint alone. I mean, this was a director who had never made a feature before, and he worked for Google for many years, so he had the tech savvy for how to put together and construct something like this that jumps between, video footage like in a player on a screen, and then jumping to, just so many different ways of telling the story and completely keeping it contained to a computer from voice phone calls and all these different things. And this looks more like a traditional visual sort of approach as far as filmmaking goes, but the story is strong and super creepy, and Sarah Paulson in the trailer is kind of this mother who has been keeping her child disabled and almost kind of trapped in ways. And I mean, Paulson, I don't love everything that she's done. I like most of her American Horror Story work, but I did not like her in Glass, and I
put her in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, I just didn't like Glass, period. But no, this was one of the...
Someone who didn't like Glass? What is this? Earth?
Yeah, but nonetheless, it was one of the strongest trailers that I saw this past week, and so I was just curious if you guys did too. So
I missed it. I do want to check that out though. That does. I do like her a lot. She's like Bird Box. She had like no screen time, but she was like the one character I liked.
Yeah.
And actually, on the topic of trailers, I finally saw and paid attention to the full trailer of Bloodshot, the Vin Diesel movie that's coming out. That's like kind of Groundhoggy, live, die, repeat, where he's like a soldier who dies, and then they keep putting him into situations to kill people, but he keeps dying.
Also,
and
like
keeps,
source
like,
code.
reprogramming. Yeah, it's like source code meets RoboCop meets Groundhog Day type of thing. Looks interesting, but in the trailer, the special effects are horrible.
They're pretty bad. I hope they're fixing them like leading up to the release. But Valiant is not like a big worthy name in comic books, unfortunately.
Well, if it had Sonic the Hedgehog in it, they'd be
hits.
fixing it right now.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I mean, like, the fact that you put out a trailer when everything looks so blatantly bad is just like, ugh, like, let it cook for a few more months, guys, or I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, Cats put out a whole movie. I mean.
All right, Chauncey, just stop me down at the end, man.
Ben in the chat says that rumors are the new Candyman trailer is before The Invisible Man.
Oh.
Yeah, there's lots of people saying it's going to hit this week, so we don't know if it's going to be released online, before or after that. But I am stoked.
What's the release date on that?
And, that's a good question. I know it's. I want to say this summer.
I heard it definitely coming out this year. That's what I thought I heard.
I know Peele is. He's not directing it, but he's producing it. Yeah, it is a summer release, June 12th. So it's a direct. So, yeah, honestly, it's done by this female director called Nia DaCosta, and she did this awesome little indie film that I saw at the Phoenix Film Festival last year called Little Woods that had Tessa Thompson and had that British lady that I like so much. She's a younger actress, Lily James.
James, yeah.
Lily
James and Tessa. British is all, and as the day is long. But Nia DaCosta did a hell of a job with this story that took place in North Dakota and was about Tessa Thompson's character, who had served some jail time for basically going up into Canada and smuggling pharmaceuticals back into the U.S. She sold and kind of, she's served some time for that, and she's still on probation. And when her sister Lily James, her half sister Lily James, gets pregnant in the film, she is trying to take her across the border to have an abortion, and because they don't have health insurance, and it's like a mess financially. And so I mean, it was one of the best dramas I saw last year. Unfortunately, not a lot of people saw it because it didn't really get a big wide release or anything. But it's the director of that who showed that she has a great directorial sense for getting amazing performances out of her actresses, and that I know once again, there is going to be a female presence in this. Although I feel like I think the lead
the lead's a female in the first one,
in the original one, and I think Farewell to the Flesh, the sequel that's in Nolan's. But
who's cast as Candyman?
Candyman. So Tony Todd is back in this
as
movie,
Candyman,
but we don't know necessarily, because remember at the end of the first one, it's over 20 years old at this particular
almost
point.
30.
Almost 30. Yeah, god damn, that makes me feel old. But yeah, he almost passes the torch to the woman who he had terrorized throughout the entirety of the film. Her character is at least back in this new one, but we don't really know much beyond that. They are filming in Chicago again. I believe filming wrapped on it, and now they are in post, which is cool. Based on how much I liked Little Woods, based on the fact that it's pulling the Halloween, it's a direct sequel to the original, and they're striking the other ones from the record. But Tony Todd actually being in it. TT follows me on Twitter, and I've seen him giving some updates and stuff about it, which is cool, because originally he was talking smack about the project, and then he actually warmed up to it when he found out Jordan Peele, producer. I think Monkey Paw is actually doing it too.
They are.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of positivity behind this film, at least in my estimation, and I'm stoked to see what the trailer turns out to be.
The black
isn't the theme gentrification or something?
That'd be cool, because
I think they're playing on the whole gentrification.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I know the first one was about being in the projects and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the first one's about a creepy guy with a hook hand and bees. What is this politics you're trying to bring into this movie?
No, nothing else.
Yeah,
bees. Fucking idiot.
And they were live bees.
Oh, that scene grosses me out. I hate bugs.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually an instance in horror where I feel like the source material was significantly elevated from once it was made into a film, because Barker's did not rely as heavily on those themes. I don't even think Barker's original story took place in Chicago, in those, projects and stuff like that. That was the, team behind the film really trying to reshape it and give it more relevance and resonance in that
I don't know
regard.
what they added to his voice in that garage scene, but that was that's creepy. Yeah, if that was just straight his voice, that's pretty impressive. But
Tony Todd's got a great voice. Like, it could have been like
quite scary. Quite scary.
He's got one of those voices that the moment I hear it, I'm like, oh, hi, Tony Todd. I don't even need like what's his name? It was Goliath in Gargoyles. Keith David. The moment I hear that voice, oh, okay, yeah.
And he still has a very commanding presence, of course.
Yeah.
Like, he was in that movie Candy Corn that came out, and which I think was a play on his thing, but it was like, it was a killer that like stuffed people's face with candy corns after he killed them.
Well, he was also,
which is like scary because candy corn is disgusting.
It's so disgusting.
It is the absolute worst Halloween candy you could ever get. My God, it's like I'm eating sugar wax. Like, ugh. Anyway,
but he's in that.
He's also in Hellfest, and he's barely in it.
Yeah,
he's got like a 2-minute cameo, and he owned the hell out of it.
In the dead middle of the movie, it's just like, what? Are we done?
Well, one of my favorite franchises, he owns the hell out of that cameo in Final Destination 2, where he's the friggin' mortician, man. He's so good in that.
God, he has like so little screen time, but God, you remember that character, like, because he's just
Yahya Abdul-Mateen is the actor who's playing Candyman this time around.
Yeah, that's right. He was Manta Ray in
Aquaman.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that guy. Cool. Oh, okay.
See, as long as Tony Todd is in it, because I don't think he's too old.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, he's so cute.
She just said hi to her. It's a her.
It is a her.
Oh,
it's not a he, Lindsay. You with the girl's name should know this.
No, I assumed it.
Did you just assume my cat?
Well, if I had a nickel for every time someone calls me Jamie, I'd have a shitload of nickels, man. So that's why I shifted to being called Fuego instead of Jaime when I was still new to all of this different stuff. So
Chauncey, I was told, was either guys' names or dogs, usually pugs. Growing up.
What?
So. Yeah, my mom assured me it was unisex, though. I think it was just when I came around it became unisex.
Yeah, that and Chris, just Chris.
I mean, it makes me think of the most underrated Pokemon, Chansey. Like, come on, right? Does no one like Chansey? Right?
I didn't even like Chansey.
I'm the only person who likes Chansey.
Fuego.
Yeah, that's
it, huh?
I mean, there isn't really much else. It was not a really news-heavy week. I was initially going to bring up the fact that there is a Saint reboot that they're finally doing, but who cares about the Saint? It was a mediocre 1997 movie with Val Kilmer.
They're course-correcting, Fuego.
I know. It's a term that I'm aware never to utilize in any other instance on this show.
No. If it has one movie, there's only one course.
Well, it was also a television series in the 60s in the UK. And
the Saint?
Of novels for that.
I see. All right.
So it does have a history. Right. And I'm Dexter Fletcher, who recently did Rocket Man. He's apparently lining this up as his next project. And Chris Pratt, rumored to be in discussions, negotiations, for the lead role. I don't know. I was mildly amused by The Saint. It was one of those James Bond lights of the mid-90s, when that franchise was seeing a resurgence with Pierce Brosnan and stuff. It was like one of those, okay, James Bond is popular again because of GoldenEye. What do we do? Let's search for whatever, IP we can that's kind of similar, secret agent-y type of stuff.
Yeah, mid to late 90s spy movies are really kind of... they're a little
forgettable.
Lacking.
Wait, when did I Spy come out? Did that come
2002.
out then, or was that kind of after that? I'm impressed that just
Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson? Yeah, 2002.
That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the whole 9-inch joke.
Yeah, that was the time where I was like, hey, Eddie Murphy's still okay.
Yeah, well, and that was when they were really just emphasizing the ethnic pairing. They're like, okay, let's get Owen Wilson with, and either an Asian, or an African American, and then because Shanghai Nights and all that different stuff, and then also at the same time Jackie Chan did Rush Hour, which Rush Hour 1 is okay. Rush Hour 2 just makes me miss Chris Tucker so goddamn much, man, because of the fact that their interplay in that second film was terrific, and they seem more comfortable with each other and stuff. And I mean, I wish Jackie Chan would have pursued more comedic work, because I thought he had really fun timing, man. So yeah, I mean, he always played off well in that regard. So yeah, he was cool.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I was going to mention was Bill and Ted 3, Face the Music. There was another photo that hit, and it gave just a little bit of yes. Well, hey man, I mean it was a weak news week, dude. I mean,
it's been a weak month.
Really, yeah. Well, I mean it is the post-award season dead zone of sorts, and we're living the dead zone with our current president. So what are you going to say there?
We have a big week. What, on the 6th, right? We got something chunky coming out in a week, right? What's March 6th? Is it the
day after March 5th?
Is it the 13th? Something's coming out that's...
Which is A Quiet Place 2, Part 2.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that...
I think the 13th, if I'm not
mistaken. That's 3 weeks away.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. So on March 3rd, we got Queen and Slim, followed by and Dark
Again?
Waters.
Wait, what?
Whatever that
Queen
is.
and Slim
Yeah.
again?
It came out already.
That came out already.
Oh, maybe this is DVD release then. Hold on. Where's Wait, what is the site I'm on? Hold on, let me go back here.
New Girls Live. What?
Onward, the Pixar movie. That's what comes out on the 6th. Yeah.
That's got some good critical buzz. They've already been
That's two
screening.
Marvel voices in that one.
Yeah, it is. It's Spider-Man and one of the Chris's.
Chris Pratt, yes, Star-Lord himself.
Wait, is that the thing with the trolls in the van?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that'll just sweep up. It's.
I mean, I've seen Pixar movies where like this looks absolutely horrible before, and then I walk out of it crying.
Every time,
so they always get the benefit.
I did that with WALL-E, and WALL-E's my favorite Pixar movie.
I also did it with Up. I thought Up was going to be. I'm like, this looks lame, and then like I was like in tears in the first few.
Oh yeah, the first 10 minutes you're like, fucking Pixar, you did it again, bastards.
WALL-E reminds me of Short Circuit, which is one of
my
favorites. I think they designed kind of similar.
Same face.
And I cried during Short Circuit, especially that shooting scene.
I feel you. Don't worry.
It's definitely better than Flight of the Navigator. That's for sure.
Hey, and even if Onward's bad, we'll get a good short because they always got those good shorts.
Sure.
So. Sorry.
So, Lindsey, do you have anything to? Are we done? We're done. Seems like it, right? We're dead. It's all right.
Not much.
It's okay.
Else.
It's okay.
I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. If I think of it in the next minute or so, I'll just scream it out.
Yeah, you can Columbo it and be like, one more thing before you go, and just jump into it like that.
Lindsey, you working on anything in the meantime?
Yes. I have been attempting to script out an episode talking about the reaction to Birds of Prey, and I just keeps not being something I like, so I almost think I'm going to try just winging it and see what I can get from editing out of me just winging it, because the scripts always suck. I don't know, but I do have something I want to say. I'm just trying to make it work is the problem right now. Yeah.
Chauncey, what you got coming up?
Well, this Wednesday, I'm going to be on an episode of the podcast Neon Brainiacs, and it's for Women in Horror Month, and they had me watch the film Stripped to Kill that came out in 1985, and yeah, if you look up the cover of this film, you have a lot of assumptions that you would make, but it's actually, I thought it was better than what I thought it was going to be, but it basically is a lot of strippers, a lot of topless stuff going on, but there's a killer. So we go through it play by play and talk about different things. So that episode is set to air on Wednesday, and then I have my new Creepy Crate unboxing video that will go up this week, and my review of The Wave with Justin Long will also go up this week.
Oh yeah, which I was planning to VOD this week because I found out that it is in fact available. So yeah. I'm stoked to check it out.
I also watched Iron Sky.
Oh, what did you think? Did you finish it?
I actually thought it was good. I actually liked it. It was the black guy gets turned white. It was all over.
Oh, that's the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the first one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Cheesy as hell, but it's like the effort that they put into that stupid movie is just so. It's better made than half the shit that people just mail it in. So frustrating. Fuego.
Yeah, so we put up our review of The Lodge just this morning, so that is on the Horror Show channel. There's going to be continued Block and Key coverage, more of the comics. Cecil and I, watched and reviewed all of those, and I know we're seeing Invisible Man sometime this week. We might wait till Thursday because, we only get a couple press passes normally, and Marsha really, really wants to see this one, so we might just hold off and review it on Thursday. We don't think we're going to get that many extra views if we go a couple days before. And yeah, I'm trying to get through the end of the Clone Wars television series because I'm in the middle of season 5 on this rewatch, and I refused to jump right to episode 1 of season 7 this past Friday. I was like, no, I'm gonna continue watching, get all that Darth Maul, sweetness and whatnot. And I have about 20 something episodes left, and I'm gonna do kind of a retrospective looking back at some of my favorite episodes of the series this week, and then begin the review. Hopefully, I can get up episode 1 on Infuegotainment on Thursday, and then on Friday. Episode 2, and just keep going weekly from there like I did with The Mandalorian.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the wife released her first review for February, which is a review of The Fanatic. Over 20 minutes long. Some pretty funny shit in there. I readjusted my final chapter review, which was put up on Saturday. My Old Boy thing should be up this week, and then I have a weird video that's kind of a prologue to a series that I have planned, so that's probably going to be up before next week as well. And on Emily's channel, we're probably going to do the third and final piece of the My Immortal reading, which, if you don't know what My Immortal is...
like the song?
It's a song by Evan Essence that...
I wish it was music that we were reviewing. It is fan fiction for Harry Potter. And it's known as the worst fan fiction in history.
Wait, worse than the Draco trilogy?
Or 50 Shades of Grey?
Oh yeah, 50 Shades.
Worse.
Fair enough.
Worse than my He-Man in the Slime Pit Masters of the Universe when I was 5 years
Send
old.
it over.
That I self-illustrated.
Send it over.
That sounds amazing. Fuego, are you kidding me? Let's start shooting that tomorrow.
I think my mom still has it somewhere.
I used to write fan fiction too, yeah.
Yeah, fan fiction is wonderful, but it also goes wrong very easily.
Yes.
I've dipped my toes in it a little.
Yes, this person took the Harry Potter universe and made them all vampires. Yeah, it's
I like it already.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And every chapter, the lead character, who keeps spelling her name wrong, it goes from Anabi to Ebony, back and forth, just keeps misspelling it. And it's about what she's wearing. Every chapter is just about what she's wearing. And the chapters are like a page long. It's awful. It's laughably terrible. Yes.
I will have to check that out. That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah, we're so the first episode's on this channel from a couple of weeks ago. The second's on hers, and the last piece is on her channel. There, we got into costume for her reading, and we both wore black because that's what they do in this series. Is they dress all goth and go to Good Charlotte concerts. Because
is just everyone just basically Slytherin house? Like, is there no other 3 houses at Hogwarts? Is it just all the emo Slytherin?
No, but they all cut their wrists. They all cut their wrists and they're bi.
Oh wow!
All of them. All of them are bi. They cut their wrists, and it's all about goth and preppy, and posers. That's it.
That makes sense for a fan fiction.
Does it really?
Yeah, the whole bi thing and like, cause they, slash, characters.
Oh yeah, they gotta make Sherlock Holmes and what's his face fuck all the time, right? Isn't there like a ton of?
Well, with Marvel, it was Captain America and Bucky. That was the big ship of that, and there was a whole bunch of fan fictions about the two of them being lovers.
Oh, it's there for Stephen King's Dark Tower too. Roland Deschain and Cuthbert. I've seen a lot of artwork out there, and beyond the. So yeah.
Well, Star Wars, you got Finn and Poe, man. Come on, like
Well, that was really,
right? Yeah, exactly.
that was
on the
really
screen.
underlying, and they should have just went
Yeah.
with it because they actually have really great chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% they did.
So much wasted everything in Rise of Skywalker. So much wasted.
Yeah. The more I see, the more I get sad. But hey, it is what it is.
Watch that movie again since
And
it came
just
out.
always yelling.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, and speaking of Potter, I actually just noticed, looking at Fandango, that Guns Akimbo is in limited this weekend, which is Radcliffe and my beloved Samara Weaving. So I'll probably go try to check that out, too.
Okay.
I will check that out, too, if I can. I
It's-
want to do that.
It's fresh on Chauncey's Rotten Tomatoes. It said, it's only 65. Never mind. That is not fresh. What am I saying? It's just got the little tomato mirrors down on it. It has to be 80 or above, right, to be considered fresh?
Yeah.
Is that a fact?
I think so.
80?
65 is
I
respectable.
think once it goes down past, maybe once it goes down below 50, that's when you get the
Splat.
flat.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, in the chat for joining us. Real quick, hi, John, Zach, Skulder, Tom. Rogers tells me, yes, that video of the girls doing sex aerobics in Friday Part 4 is a real thing. It was a teen masturbatory in the 80s. I believe that. It's bizarre, that stuff. What's up, Felix? Sandra already left. All right, so we're good. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. A little slow week. It might be slow again next week, but at least we'll have a good horror to talk about. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Firmly.
All right, so
Also, here's my question. So we got this coming out now. So what invisible sort of hard to see stalker movies coming out later this year to be the Venom to this year's upgrade that is Invisible Man? We got anything like that coming out
Or the Armageddon to the Deep Impact, or
exactly. Thank you.
whatever else.
Thank you. My reference made
it's
sense.
probably
That's all I
straight to
care about.
VOD, whatever it is, and it's probably produced by distributed by what the fuck's their name? They always make shit horror movies. They made Pet Graveyard. Canon. Yeah, if they were still in business yet. Oh, what's their name?
Pet Graveyard.
Oh, it was terrible. It came out the week before Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, I got sent a lot. No, I can't say that.
Yeah.
Asylum.
It's not Asylum.
Maybe.
Oh, it's not Asylum. Okay.
Maybe. Didn't Cody review Pet Graveyard, if I remember, CP?
No.
I think he did.
No,
or he at least made reference to it in
I
some
think
review.
so. It's
shit,
Uncorked. Both Emily and I are on their shit list, but Uncorked Entertainment, they're not very fond of.
I have nothing to say.
Back when we did more trailer reactions, Cecil and I would see Uncorked at the beginning, and we'd be like, "Ooh, boy, here we go. We know what we're in for."
Great posters. They make great posters. That's all I have to say positive about that, Tim.
Yeah, but when you have like Dread Central and iHorror that are pushing your shit as opposed to Bloody Disgusting, you probably know the waning quality that's there. So, but you can find diamonds in the rough occasionally. But it's like 1 out of 100 most.
Yeah,
of the time,
I'm not taking those odds. I'm not watching 100 movies to get the one.
Well, one of my favorite horrors of the last
2 minutes. So
What?
Well, this always gets me. One of my favorite horrors of the last 10 years was produced by WWE, Oculus.
Yeah, well, that was a Mike Flanagan, and Mike Flanagan was still trying to find, I guess, an audience at that point. I think he'd only done Absentia before that, and then he did Oculus, and then, he segued into doing, like, Ouija Origin of Evil, and then he did, Gerald's Game for Netflix, and he was, like, slowly gaining, his esteem and his clout, I guess you could say. But,
we always seem to
we
always seem to get chatty right after we close. Next time I'm just going to end the show 5 minutes in, and then we'll just stretch it an hour afterwards. Okay, so for Lindsey, Chauncey, and Fuego, I am CP. We will see you this time next week, or 2 hours before now next week.